Here I am back in the loft, and I have to strategically place myself because I still haven't put away all my Christmas decorations. But that's part of how we're going to grow this year. We're going to be gracious with ourselves, right? Anyway, as we look back on the past year, I know many of us are like, ugh, out with the old, in with the new. But it hasn't taken us long to realize a lot of the old is just kind of carrying along into 2021. Not to fear. I want to encourage you. Do you remember these? These were all the power of one decisions that we made at the beginning of the year. Every single one of you have been prayed about. Your decisions have been prayed about. The people you wanted to help know Christ in 2020 have been prayed about multiple times. And you may feel like, yeah, that all sounded great at the beginning of 2020, but not much happened. I was with a sister recently, and we were working on our calendars for the coming year. She's, kind of a calendar geek like me, and we like to, have the colored pens and plan it through and have a draft and then the formal one and all that. And it's clearly been a little more challenging lately to create a calendar, but nevertheless, we got together to talk about it. And we were reflecting back, and she was feeling a little discouraged about the year, kind of like what happened. And in the middle of this, her alarm went off, and she goes, "Oh, that's my alarm to remind my son to log back into school, but now he does it himself, and I just haven't taken it off my phone." And I stopped and asked her, "So, would you have ever thought at the beginning of this year that you would be teaching your 7-year-old son to manage his own time on his own device to log back into online school?" And she started laughing and said, "No." I said, "That is a huge victory." I mean, none of us would even think to even approach training a 7-year-old, one of our 7-year-old kids, about that, because it wouldn't have even crossed our mind. And here, wow, her son at a young age is managing his own time and saying, "Okay, well, it's time to log back into school." That's going to serve him well when hey, it's time to end my lunch break and get back to work, or whatever he does in the future. So it was really, I think it was good for her to reflect and see that. And it was good for me as an outsider. Sometimes outsiders can see the victories in our lives better than we can. And I want to encourage you to take some time to look back and consider what has happened and the growth that has occurred. It's an exercise that we did at work regularly. We would stop and consider everything that had happened in the last 6 months. We would do it a couple times a year. And then we would consider the things we'd want to see happen. But we would always reflect back first. And it was so good. And I want to share with you in my review recently, and yes, those of us in the ministry, we do have reviews. I got together with Bonnie and Susan and Evelyn, our elders' wives, and they had asked me to think back on the year and things that had been accomplished. And it was such a great exercise because there are things that I was forgetting had happened. I mean, honestly, even creating these videos is really the result of a pandemic, and feeling like, how am I going to connect with people? How am I going to connect with the sisters, with the women? And that's what I've been wanting to have consistent videos for a long time. But it wasn't until this year that actually happened on a consistent basis. And then I thought about the discipleship groups that have been started this year and the women that I've been able to work with more directly and more intentionally to help raise up. It's been encouraging to work with Jasmine and get her acclimated, and it doesn't even seem like she's only been here a year. And then to work with Jackie from afar so that when she got here, she could already feel like she was a part of this team. That was a huge victory of 2020. Take some time to look back. Some of you got married this year. You bought houses this year. You moved. That's huge. You had babies. I mean, there's a lot that's happened this year. And I want to encourage you that even if you you can't see with your eyes what has happened, the fruit, God has been at work. One of my favorite Psalms is Psalm 77, and I wanted to read some of it to you. It starts out, the psalmist says, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, which many of us were this past year for many reasons, I sought the Lord. At night, I stretched out my untiring hands, and I would not be comforted. I remembered you, God, and I groaned. I meditated, and my spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. I thought about former days, the years of long ago. I remembered my songs in the night. My heart meditated, and my spirit asked, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld his compassion? Then I thought, to this I will appeal. The years when the Most High stretched out his right hand, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. And the psalmist goes on to think about and consider when God parted the waters so that his people could walk through on dry ground. And he ends it by saying in verse 19, your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. God's footprints may not have been seen in your power of one decision yet, or those you want to help know Christ. Maybe his footprints aren't seen to you, but nevertheless, he was at work. So I want to encourage you to take some time, reflect back, and ask God to help you see what has been done. Don't be discouraged. Whether you see his footprints or not, he was at work, and he continues to work on our behalf. Have a great week.